Joining me now here on the Knicks Film School pregame show. Well, the Knicks are staying in Los Angeles for another matchup against the Los Angeles basketball team. This one might actually match the Knicks. In fact, I would argue exceeds the Knicks in popularity, especially when you factor in the global total of Laker fans that exist in the world, and also the amount of Laker fans that no matter what I have to say about a member of the Lakers ends up in my mentions. I am very excited to welcome onto the show the host of the Lakers Nation podcast, also the front office show, Trevor Lane. Welcome to Knicks Film School Podcast, sir. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Hey, thank you so much for having me. Excited to do this and looking forward to talking little Knicks versus Lakers. Should be a great matchup.
So let's start there. The great matchup of Knicks versus Lakers. Now, for those that you watch on YouTube, I put the records of the teams at the bottom of the screen so you can see where both teams are. And yet, the Knicks are missing their best player, Jalen Brunson. We're recording this a mere hours after a tough loss to the Los Angeles Clippers. I have no idea what a back-to-back in LA is going to look like, especially with how gassed one of their best players that is available is currently looking, and some other question marks I have with the team. And then I look at the Lakers, and since the trade deadline, they're 8-3. The day after the trade deadline, I should say, because they played on the night of the 9th. They're 8-3, and during that stretch, they have the best defense in the NBA, the 10th best net rating. They even lost LeBron, and it really hasn't seemed to hurt them from my perspective. So I guess I'll ask you, despite being 33-34, is this the best the Lakers have felt from a fan perspective this season?
Oh, 100%. This is the best they felt for 2 seasons. Easily. Last season we largely called it the most miserable season in Lakers history. That was an absolute season of brutality, a grind that nobody enjoyed. This season was it was kind of up and down. We were right in the roller coaster for a while there, but it really is. You almost have to look at it like it's 2 different teams. What we've seen pre-trade deadline and post. I mean, 6 new players came in, so it practically is a completely different team. The way they play, the energy they play with, the urgency, the starting lineup is vastly different. Everything has changed. So it was almost like the start of a new season for the Lakers, and all the stuff that happened before the trade deadline is a completely different iteration of the team. So a lot of this, from the analytical side, we're trying to on the fly figure out what essentially a brand new team is about. This is almost like we've restarted the season here. So far, they've been looking great. They've been winning games. They've been finding ways to get wins, whereas prior to the trade deadline, frankly, they were finding ways to lose games late. We had a number of times where they were up 6 with 1:30 to left or something, and they would go into overtime and lose or something like that. This team is finding ways to get the job done, finding ways to win games. Different guys are stepping up each night. And Lakers fans, for the first time in a while, are having a lot of fun watching this team. So that's been great from our perspective, getting to see something that's enjoyable and has felt like Lakers basketball again.
Yeah, the night of the deadline, when we were doing our reactions and looking at the rest of the league and what they did, it's honestly what you said. I looked at what the Lakers moves meant, and I likened it to the 2018 Cavaliers and all the moves they did at their deadline, ironically, both trying to maximize LeBron James's window. And it was a reset. It was, again, the start of a second season. And I'm very fascinated by how long this continues, because it so far seemed to work. As far as the rest of the season and how it had gone up until then, is it fair to say that you would characterize it as we were all kind of waiting to see what the move would be? Was a lot of the coverage this season like, yes, they're struggling. Yes, from the X's, from the number standpoint, it's not looking great, but they have moves in them, so we'll be patient.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think patient wouldn't really be the word. There were, okay. Lakers fans in general were hoping for a trade, and there was, of course, constantly going back to, well, would they have been better off just trading for Miles Turner and Buddy Hield the night before media day? We have a lot of sourcing on that was available for them to do the night before media day. If they wanted to, they chose not to. Instead, going into the season with the roster as is, but the roster build didn't make sense. The roster, we were saying it all the way back from July that there had to be moves coming. The roster was built as though Russell Westbrook wasn't on the team. And so the roster never made sense. We had games where Austin Reeves was playing power forward because they didn't have any other players. They had all guards on the team, and it was a mess. And they were able to fight through stretches. We saw LeBron play at an MVP caliber level for a stretch. We saw Anthony Davis play at an MVP caliber level for a stretch, but of course, they also suffered a number of injuries. So the first, whatever it is, 3/4 of the season up until the trade deadline was a roller coaster where they would have one good game where shots were falling and they looked pretty good. And then the next game they would lose. It was one step forward, one step back. They started the season 2-10 and they could never quite make up for that terrible start. They were just kind of constantly hovering there, just trying to tread water while they were waiting for a move to come in and something to provide balance to the roster. And I think that's what they did at the trade deadline. The question now becomes, was it too late into the season? Had they done so much damage already that they're not going to be able to dig their way out? And that's what we're all kind of, scoreboard watching and everything else about right now.
That's a perfect segue to my next question, because I was going to ask you about the scoreboard watching and not necessarily the other teams, because obviously like the Clippers are in there, the Warriors are in there, the Timberwolves are in there, and it's not necessarily like what teams are you looking out for. I'm more look at what's in your own control and where the Lakers are now at 33 and 34. Is there a specific seed that you see that they need to get to, or just more particularly, you feel comfortable that they can make a legitimate run in the playoffs?
I mean, really, with where they're at, it's just where can you get to and just be healthy? If you can get, like, if LeBron doesn't come back this season, which we don't know, he's going to get reevaluated in a few weeks. There's, some optimism that he can come back and reports saying he's doing everything he can. But if LeBron doesn't come back, then that's probably that, right? They're not going to go deep into the playoffs or anything like that. If LeBron comes back, then whatever seed they're in, whether it's the 10 seed, whether it's the 5 seed, I think they can make some noise. Obviously, you would prefer to be, if you're in the play-in, you prefer to be the 7 or 8 seed, simply because then you're in double elimination. And ideally, you don't even deal with that and you get up to the 6 seed. It won't be easy. You've got a number of teams you have to leapfrog, but the general sense is just get in, and then work from there. And hope that you have a healthy roster at that point, and then you can show your stuff. And look, with how far behind they were, if they're able to get in, that means the run that they went on post trade deadline would suggest that they're a significantly better team than what their record would suggest they actually are. So I think there would be optimism because of that, because they're going to have to play basketball at a much higher level than a typical, say, 9 seed would, in order just to get into the play-in, because they were playing from so far behind. And again, that 2-10 start. So that's where we're at right now, is just get yourselves in, be healthy, and then see where the chips fall. Obviously, though, the preference being move up if you can.
So a couple of days ago, I talked to Brendan Nunez, who covers the Kings for Blue Wire and for the Kings Herald. And he painted a nightmare scenario where the Kings get the 2 seed and the Lakers are waiting for them in the first round. And obviously there's that rivalry that exists. If I had to ask you the dream scenario for the first round, obviously you'd like to get as high as you can. And as the Lakers currently sit 1 game and the loss column out of the 5 seed at the moment. But if the basketball gods were to set us up as far as I'm concerned, on the outside looking in at an entertaining first round matchup with a lot of history attached to it of Lakers Kings in the first round, what is the Laker fan base reaction and expectation going to be going into that series?
Yeah, I mean, I think that that's one of the teams that most Lakers fans that I've been talking to have been targeting, saying that's a team we would like to see, while recognizing that the Kings have been fantastic. I don't think the Lakers would be the favorite in that series or anything like that, but just in general, if you've got a team with some veteran players on it, like LeBron, like Anthony Davis, you probably want to go up against a team that doesn't have that kind of playoff experience. And so the Kings make sense as a preferred opponent. I've heard people say Memphis as well. Most fans just say, look, don't give us Denver in round 1. Don't give us Phoenix in round 1 with a healthy Kevin Durant. Let's go up against a team that maybe is not so experienced in the postseason, and go from there. So what's interesting, though, is you mentioned the rivalry. That was a big thing 20 years ago, 20 plus years ago. Mm-hmm. And I think to Kings fans, it might still be. I've had a lot of Lakers fans cheering for the Kings this year. And part of it is, frankly, over the last week or so, there's been a number of games where the Lakers needed the Kings to win.
Okay.
But there isn't a lot of animosity amongst Lakers fans, I've noticed, towards the Sacramento Kings anymore. It's interesting. And I know that part of it is the Kings haven't made the playoffs in so long. So I've seen actually a lot of Lakers fans kind of rooting for Sacramento, which is a drastic change from where we were a few decades ago.
So it's very much the John Hamm in Mad Men meme where the guy in the elevator says to him, "I feel sorry for you." And John Hamm responds, "I don't think about you at all," in that sense, which is interesting. I want to talk about some of the players on the roster, and more in particular for Knicks fans that don't get a chance to watch every Lakers game, although it does seem like every Lakers game is nationally televised. I am so lost at what the rotation currently is because you've had a lot of players in and off the roster. So I'm assuming AD is obviously going to play. If you can give Knicks fans an idea of what the rotation and more in particular the new additions, how they've looked and what the closing lineup is going to look like. I know I just threw a lot at you to throw into an answer, but who should Knicks fans be paying attention to that's going to make an impact in the game in this matchup?
So that what they're going to start, obviously, with LeBron being out, Troy Brown Jr. has been in the starting lineup in his place, and he's done well shooting the ball, just kind of making quiet but important plays. A steal here, a good defensive rotation there, hitting a three, things like that. You've got, and then D'Angelo Russell starts at the point guard. Malik Beasley starting at the 2, Jared Vanderbilt's at the 4, and Anthony Davis is at the 5. Beasley's the guy to kind of keep an eye on. He has not shot well in the month of March. Part of that we attribute to LeBron being out. He's a kind of a spot up shooter. He can come off of curls and things like that, but he, I think, has been very negatively impacted by LeBron not being on the floor. So Beasley's the guy to look out for. We've been saying he's due to break out of this shooting slump for a while now. Has not shot well, has actually lost minutes the last couple of games because of it. So we'll see what he can do shooting the basketball. D'Angelo Russell was fantastic in their last game. He was absolutely tremendous, instrumental in getting the win over the Raptors. Dropped 28 points, got hot, really played to the LA crowd. So that's another guy to keep an eye on. Fans are fired up about him. Of course, Anthony Davis. He had a very quiet night against the Raptors. Only had 8 points. So he's going to be looking for a bounce back. Not going to be easy against our old friend Julius Randle and Mitchell Robinson, of course. And then from there, the closing lineup tends to shift depending on who's playing well. Typically, you're probably going to see Austin Reeves in the mix. He's been replacing Beasley in the lineups there. We've also seen a decent amount of Dennis Schroeder, who's actually played very well in fourth quarters. He can be a little bit hot and cold earlier in the game, but fourth quarters, he's been performing very well on both sides of the ball. So he's been getting into the mix as well in crunch time. But Darvin Ham has been mixing it up just depending on what matchups are working and they don't have a quote unquote death lineup like the Warriors of old did, where they just had a group that they went to every single game. They don't really have that. They kind of mix and match depending on their opponent. But that's the starting group. Off the bench, Austin Reeves has been great for them. He's been doing some wonderful things out there. Again, Schroeder's coming off the bench now as well. And then Rui Hachimura seems to have found his groove the last couple of games after being cold for probably about 5 or 6 before that. So he's another guy to keep an eye on. The matchup most Lakers fans are really watching. It's Isaiah Hartenstein against Wenyen Gabriel. Wenyen Gabriel now thrust into the main backup minutes at the center position with the loss of Mo Bamba to a high ankle sprain. I think he's done for the regular season, 4 weeks. He'll be reevaluated. And Wenyen is 6'9", like 210. So, and he's brings a lot of energy, but there's definitely going to be a size discrepancy there. So that's going to be a real one to keep an eye on too, to see can the Knicks take advantage of the size that Hartenstein's going to have over Wenyen.
I can already kind of predict it that the way the Knicks use Hartenstein, it'll be a lot at the top of the key as a DHO distributor, or more to take advantage of his passing ability, which might actually favor a smaller defensive lineup. Where I think that's going to kill the Lakers is on the offensive boards. The Knicks are an elite offensive rebounding team. The other night against Sacramento, that's literally what brought them back in the game. They had 22 offensive rebounds and 17 extra possessions as a result. So I think that would be where that matchup could favor the Knicks. But I'm curious to see this new look Laker team. I don't mean to. So I'm gonna. Let me actually lead with this. I'll give you a laugh first before I ask you some Russell Westbrook questions. All
right.
So earlier in the year when AD was playing out of his mind, and just to give you an idea of how the Knicks season has gone for a lot of us in the fan base, the Donovan Mitchell summer happened. They don't get him. Originally, it was like there actually was like a good portion of the fan base that was like, thank God this isn't the time to fully go all in on something. This isn't the team yet. We have no idea what Julius is. I'd like to see what RJ Barrett is in year 4. I have no idea what Jalen Brunson is. And I'd like to wait until you pull the trigger on a move like that. While a lot of things have moved a step forward, the RJ Barrett thing has taken a step back. And what has not gone away and probably won't go away, no matter how successful this next season goes, is who's the guy? Who are we trading for? Who's the big star that they're going to go all in for? And watching AD earlier in the season, I mean, look, the way the Lakers season was going and you get some of the tea leaves, whether they were credible or not, it was like maybe AD could be a thing that they use to upgrade the roster. And there were Knicks fans like, no, he gets hurt. I don't think I want AD. And I was very adamant. Like, if that's the argument, I can't fight you. From an ability standpoint, he's a top 7 or 8 player when he's on the floor. And I guess I'm curious with Lakers fans as this season has gone on, and obviously LeBron and this injury that he had and the setback that he had, I still don't know how he played the rest of the game against Dallas, or even if he made it worse. But as far as Anthony Davis is concerned and how he's now had to carry the team, do Laker fans, like, how patient are they with the fact that he just has had some really bad injury luck? And they've kind of invested long term in this guy, or is there like a contingent of the fan base that's like, figure it out, you're eventually going to need to upgrade him? Or I guess the final part of this multiple part question is like, is he their guy? Like, it's like, you know what? He gets hurt, but when he's here, he's our guy. And we trust him when he's able to play, and hopefully he's able to play in big playoff games.
That's all very much up in the air. And that's one of the subplots here to the closing games of this season here has been, and this was one of the storylines heading into the season was, is Anthony Davis that guy? Is he, because he's been hurt so often? And again, there's, he gets the whole street clothes nickname and all that kind of stuff. And there's plenty of other players who've actually been hurt more and missed more games than him. But nonetheless, he's got this reputation for being hurt, and some of it is deserved. He's been injured quite a bit. And so going into this season, we said this is, AD's 29, just turned 30. Happy birthday, Anthony Davis.
Friday night, great.
That's right. So we'll see what kind of shape he's in for the game on Sunday. But Anthony Davis, at this point, this is it, right? Like, if he was brought in to be the guy, LeBron's ready to pass the torch. Anthony Davis, this is your team, go, right? And we haven't really seen that. We saw Anthony Davis when they won the championship in 2020. He hit a different level. He was incredible. He was MVP caliber. He was fantastic. And then he didn't hit that level for 2 seasons. And he already set that bar so high. And the questions were, can he get back to that point or not? And that was, one of the big storylines coming into the season. We've seen him hit that level of play a few times. He's been at that level the last couple of weeks here. But again, that injury question is still there. So I think for Lakers fans, it comes down to, can Anthony Davis get them into the playoffs over these next few weeks? Can he get them into the playoffs as the guy, as the 1A, as the superstar? Can he get them into the playoffs and give LeBron a chance to come back in and make some noise? And if the answer is yes, and he keeps playing this way and he stays healthy, then I think that's going to create a lot of faith amongst Lakers fans, amongst the Lakers front office in AG moving forward. The answer is no. He picks up another injury, he starts playing poorly, something like that. Then I think things become a bit more questionable. I'm not saying that they move him this summer or anything. I don't think that's their intention, but it's something they have to start considering if they just decide, he can't stay on the floor, because they need somebody who can be in there every single game, or at least most games. I know in today's NBA, load management and all that, they're not going to play every single night, but you need somebody who can be out there. He's fantastic when he's healthy, when he's at 100%. He's absolutely incredible. But the injury thing is real, and fans are frustrated with that. And so there's a lot riding on the next few weeks beyond just whether or not they make the playoffs.
Yeah, and look, it's obvious to say that if he was paired with a younger LeBron, this would probably not even be an issue, because LeBron and his Superman-like tendencies to play as many games as he possibly can and not really suffer a serious injury were a plus. It's why Dwayne Wade was kind of able to load manage a lot. It's why Kyrie missed a ton of time during his time as LeBron's teammate in Cleveland. And I do have to ask the question, as I know we're focusing on this season. Speaking of Kyrie, what is the Laker fan expectation for this summer? Is it like he's tried to go to LA multiple times? We are expecting him to be a Laker next season. I don't want to get into how Laker fans like feel about Kyrie, because as a Knicks fan who had so many Nets fans, well, not Nets fans in my life, but just like the Nets story happening across town, I don't want to have that conversation anymore. But is that the expectation for Lakers fans, that like we get through this season, we get as good as we can, and then Kyrie's coming?
There's a fear that that's the path that we're on. Okay. There's a definite fear that that's what's happening here. Because the team has been so much fun over the last few weeks, in particular, and a lot of people see, and myself included, see the current makeup of the team as being not a like for like comparison, but being a more similar roster construction to the title team from 2020. And how disastrous things went with Russell Westbrook with a 3-star roster build. There is a lot of the fan base does not want to go back to a 3-star roster build, and which that's what it would be if you went and got Kyrie. There's a lot of acknowledgement that he's an incredibly talented player. He fits much better than Westbrook ever did with LeBron and Anthony Davis. There's no question there. And so, what does it cost you to get him? Is it something where you have to clear the decks and sign him in free agency and let everybody go? Or is it like a double sign-in trade and then you're dealing with the hard cap and all of that? But most Lakers fans want this team to stay intact, the current team, not to go chase Kyrie.
That's interesting, because I guess the only fascinating part for me with that is I understand he has the tendency to leave a mess where he ends up going, we'll call it. And if he were to leave Dallas after they kind of went all in on trading for him, he would leave a mess in Dallas to an extent. But to your point, this would, I don't know if it doesn't necessarily be a carbon copy of the Russ team, because I do think Kyrie at this point is better, obviously, but also like what you're giving up to get him is cap space. Like there's no other assets that are involved, like a Kuzma and what he's become, like KCP and what, I mean, he's more of the definition of a role player, but like you couldn't then afford Kuzma, Caruso as a result. And I very much appreciate that Laker fans are okay with like a much more well built out roster as a result than inviting that. You do talk about the Russ portion of the season, and I've gone back and forth on Westbrook this season. Honestly, the last 2 years have kind of been an internal introspection on how I've talked about this player, because he's clearly started to speak out recently of like, stop talking about my name. And I do admit that there's some national media that are going for the punchline and for the joke and the attention that may have gone a little too far disrespectfully. Add in the fact that Fred Katz, who covers the Knicks for The Athletic, covered Russ for a bunch of years when he was in OKC, also then covered Russ in Washington when he moved to cover the Wizards, and now he's covering the Knicks. And I hear all of these Russ stories about how great he is and how like likable he was and how clutch he was during his MVP season. And it's like giving me more of an appreciation. And then I look at what the Lakers were the last 2 seasons and how it became just a very clear, without like knowing anything behind the scenes, that there's just so much like dissension and tension between him and the rest of the team. If you could summarize what the Russell Westbrook experience was for the last year and a half, how would you do so?
It's essentially, when we talk about Russell Westbrook and we talk about his relationship with fans and all of that, we're really talking about 3 key things. And we're talking about Russell Westbrook, the human being. And most people, you talk to, like you said, you talk to most people and they say he's a great guy. He does great things in the community. You talk to players around the NBA, they frequently name him as one of, if not the best teammates they've ever had. And so there's that aspect of it. And you go, man, this guy's great. We love this guy. This guy's fantastic. This is the kind of guy you want to root for. This is the kind of guy you want to get behind. But then there's these other 2 aspects that you got to discuss. And that's what Russ brings you on the floor right now, which is, it's not what he used to be. And in today's game, where we're talking so much about efficiency and so much about percentages and turnovers and all that sort of stuff, that it's not favorable for him. There are ways that he can be successful in the NBA still, but you have to very carefully tailor a lineup around him. And the juice probably isn't worth the squeeze anymore at this point. To build a team around Russell Westbrook, you're having to sacrifice a lot of other things in order to amplify what it is that he does. And at one point in time, it was worth it to do that. And you would win games by doing so if you look at his OKC days, but that's no longer the case. So there's that part of it where can Russ still fit into a team structure in today's NBA? I think he can, but the third piece that really gets mixed into all of this was his contract. At $47 million, essentially his contract was so large that it was preventing the Lakers or whoever else would have had that contract from building out a proper team around him. And so then you essentially need Russ to be that MVP level player in order to give you the kind of bang for your buck that you're looking for and just have team success, because the rest of your roster is so much weaker because you just don't have the available resources to spend. And those three things all get mixed together. So if you see Russ on the floor and he's struggling and he has a 6 for 18, 6 for 20 shooting night with 5 turnovers, and he's hit the side of the backboard or he's missed. When Russ makes mistakes, they're typically very loud mistakes, missed layups, just bricked threes and things like that. Those are the things that stand out to fans, and they can be upsetting when they're seeing them happen right in front of them. And then you add in the contract and the frustration grows, and all that stuff about how great he is and what a great guy he is tends to get, unfortunately, overlooked because of those two aspects there. And sometimes it can be hard to separate Russ, the player, from the contract. And so all those things kind of just slam together and create this mess of a situation. That's why I think it's much better, or will be much better, with the Clippers, because he's going to be on a minimum contract. And so you no longer have this problem of, well, we couldn't build out a roster because of Russ's contract. That's not Russ's fault, but the frustration still gets directed towards him. And that was, one of the unfortunate parts of the whole situation.
The game last season when fans were audibly yelling, "Don't shoot," was against the Knicks. It was part of ironically, that was a bit of a come to Jesus moment and an inflection point for the Knicks season as well. They blew a 20-point lead. Malik Monk went off in the second half, and it just seemed like the Knicks were going to run the same substitution pattern that they have throughout the last couple of weeks of blowing big leads. And while on the Knicks side, it was like, all right, what is Tom Thibodeau doing? And led to like all of us in a bit of a civil war. I then had to notice on the other side, his home fans are yelling at him not to shoot the basketball on like wide open jump shots too. So as much as I felt for him, you're right. The other two portions of the conversation, the contract part and just like the basketball fit part, made it probably an unenjoyable, like you said, the most unenjoyable season in Lakers history. As a result of him going to the Clippers, do Laker fans have April 5th circled on their calendars? That's the next time they play the Clippers?
No, I mean, right now, Lakers fans are living and dying with every single game. I mean, everybody's watching the standings and all that kind of stuff. There's no resentment towards Russ from Lakers fans or anything like he's gone. Nobody's upset with him. Now, people were upset with the situation. Well, I shouldn't say there were some Russ haters within the Lakers fan base and all of that. There were also the Russ stands that were coming out of the woodworks and all of that. But I don't think that anybody wishes Russ ill from what I've seen. Most people are I think if he was with a team other than the Clippers, there would be a lot more people pulling for him. The fact that he's with the Clippers makes it difficult for Lakers fans to get behind him and wish him success. But everybody knows that, look, he's a good guy. It wasn't a good fit. The contract was a problem. It didn't work out. And it was frustrating when he was with the Lakers because it felt like they were kind of stuck. It was a bad fit. The contract was bad. It was a mess. Now that they've moved on, it's, hey, look, he was in a tough spot too. And most people want to see him have success. And I think you would see even more of an outpouring of that from Lakers fans if he was with just about any other team, but they can't root for success for the Clippers.
So 2 things before I let you go, and you've been great with your time and I really appreciate it. LeBron's relationship with Lakers fans. And like, he did win them a title, especially with what happened to Kobe and that season and how emotional all of that must have felt. Yet in the pandemic portion of it. So he's a Laker champion. I mean, a lot of people have him in the top 3 of all time as far as basketball rankings are concerned. The night that he broke the record was, weirdly enough, while he won a title in LA, I actually thought that was like in New York, we have like the earning your pinstripes thing. That was weirdly like earning his purple and gold that night, while also like winning a title did happen, you know? What is his relationship to Lakers fans? Do they appreciate him as one of the all-time great Lakers, or is it kind of like an arranged marriage where it's like, I work here, I understand there's great history going on, but like the Lakers and all of their all-time greats, Kareem, Kobe, Shaq, you name it, Magic, that they matter a little bit more because they were there for much longer.
Yeah, I mean, so Lakers fans were probably 50-50 when LeBron decided to come to LA on whether or not they wanted him in LA.
Really?
Because at that point, it was still very much Kobe versus LeBron, right? People were still, because they've been having those arguments for a decade, right? Mm-hmm. And so people were very entrenched. Kobe's better than LeBron because right? All these things. And suddenly LeBron's a Laker, and it's like, wait. We've been tearing this guy down for a decade, right? Talking about why Kobe's better, and then bringing up faults of LeBron, and now suddenly LeBron's a Laker. How do you reconcile that? So it was probably about 50-50. Obviously that changes as soon as he steps on the floor and he's scoring baskets for your team and all that. I personally thought that the moment when Kobe passed and LeBron gave the speech that he gave at Staples Center, like that was the moment I think that he truly became a Laker, that everybody just about, accepted him. But the problem that LeBron has with Lakers fans is something he can never fix, and that's that he's not Kobe. And there's nothing he can ever do to change that. There's nothing he can do from here on out to fix that. Kobe played in LA for 20 years. That kind of equity just simply isn't going to be matched. And so there's that, right? Where LeBron's always held up to that state. If LeBron doesn't take the shot at the end of the game, well, Kobe would have taken that shot. If LeBron sits out, Kobe would have played through that injury, right? He's constantly being compared to Kobe, and that's not a battle he can win. So that's the downside. But I will say there's a lot of fans that do appreciate LeBron. They enjoy seeing him play in LA. He's definitely felt more like a Laker. It's not the same as if he came when he was 19 or something like that and stayed for his whole career. It's definitely not the same as that. But I think the acceptance, the appreciation for LeBron is going to be, unfortunately, this is the way it goes. It's going to be all the much greater when he does retire. Then there's, you're going to see more of the, I remember how great LeBron was and that kind of stuff. Because sometimes we can be, prisoners of the moment. But that's the unfortunate reality for LeBron, is simply that he's not Kobe, and that's not going to be something that he'll ever be able to overcome among the LA fan base. He's not going to be, brought in the way that Kobe was. So, again, Lakers fans don't hate him or anything like that. They like him. It's great. It's great when you see him play, and he's doing fantastic things for the team. And he's an absolutely incredible talent. He may be the greatest ever. I don't know. He's amazing, but he isn't. He's kind of stuck in Kobe's shadow in LA, and I think that's always gonna be there for him.
Yeah. Well, first of all, do you think that they'll retire his number one day?
Yeah, I think they will. Okay. I think they will. I think that'll happen. I think it's going to be not only did he win a championship, but he passes Kareem's all-time scoring record as a Laker, and just beyond that, like he's one of, right, worst case, he's the second greatest player of all time, right? So to have that name, that number up in your rafters, that means something as well. And he's done some great things as a Laker. So I think they will, indeed, retire his number. We were talking about this the other day. I'm assuming they'll retire number 23, because with Bill Russell, you don't have to retire 6. So I'm guessing that's probably what will happen. Yeah.
The fascinating thing about that, you're not him type of deal is, like, here in New York, I'm a Mets fan, so I do not have this problem, but there are Yankee fans in my life that, because Aaron Judge has not won a World Series, they're like, there's still an edge against him. Like you're great, and that home run record last season was awesome, but you're not Derek Jeter.
Right.
Like it might actually argue that Aaron Judge has had a better season than Derek Jeter ever had last year. And yet, like because the season ended in a sweep in the ALCS, it's like, well, Derek Jeter would have gotten to the World Series. Derek Jeter would have had a great regular season and a great postseason, would have gotten every big hit and every big moment. And I can understand that type of shadow that you have to live in. And it's the Lakers in a storied franchise that the moments that they've had. As a big fan of Jeff Pearlman, both Laker books are just outstanding to me. And I always know that when the Knicks are going to crypto.com, can I just ask that? Do Laker fans call it that? Even though it's
most people still call it. Yeah, most people still call it Staples. And or if we do, it's like the Staples. Oh, I mean crypto.com.
Right.
Up with all that.
Yeah, like if Yankee Stadium suddenly was like, I don't know, like Chase Field. I think there is something called a Chase Field, and it's like, no, that's Yankee Stadium. Wait a minute, like we're calling it what we always called it. I would just be a lot of time to get used to. Last question. I like to get people's perspective on what they think of the Knicks with my last inquiry, and obviously there's the Julius Randle piece of it all. The former Laker, and did you ever think that he would be this? And then just your overall thoughts from afar of the season that the Knicks have had and what they're doing with the team that they have.
Yeah, so I've long been a resident of Randall Island, as it's known. I was a believer of his. I thought there was a path for him to have success in the NBA. There were a lot of questions around him when he was being drafted, about whether or not he would ever be able to become a modern power forward in the NBA. And he's been largely fantastic, right? I mean, he's done some incredible things that he has for shooting nights and things like that. But there were real question marks about, can this guy who doesn't block a ton of shots, doesn't shoot particularly well from outside, how is he going to manage to fit in today's NBA when bully ball is his primary weapon? Is he really going to be able to do that against NBA players? And he's carved out a real nice career for himself. I remember being upset when the Lakers just said, hey, you're a restricted free agent. Oh, you don't want to be a restricted free agent? Oh, okay, cool. You can be unrestricted. See you later. And they let him go. But the Knicks in general have been a lot of fun this year. They had the recent win. Obviously, they've lost a few games in a row here, but the recent winning streak was a lot of fun to cover, especially beating the Celtics. Like that was, of course, something Lakers fans were paying attention to. Jalen Brunson, the way that he's been playing has been absolutely fantastic. He is just a blast to watch play, the way he manipulates a basketball game. And I like Mitchell Robinson, just the activity level that he's got on the boards. He's always one of my favorites to tune in and watch. He was one of the guys that we were hoping the Lakers would draft in that draft. And his just the energy level, just the impact that he makes on the glass is always it's going to be a pain to watch it when the Lakers play the Knicks, but he's a lot of fun too. So we've been watching this Knicks season and just saying, yeah, you know what? There's something here for this team. Maybe they do wind up making some kind of big move this summer or something like that. They make that move to go all in and get somebody else in. But it feels like there's the makings here of a really, really good team that could give anybody a tough night come the postseason.
Yeah, it's interesting hearing you say all this because you're 100% right. And all of the praise that you just gave is warranted. And the vibes that existed 4 days ago would have matched exactly the evaluation that you gave of the team. The Jalen Brunson injury has kind of kids that are watching this, just, I guess, cover your ears. It's kind of been like Santa's not real. And this season is like, what is it going to be now? It's just last year all over again, where teams just have to load up on Randall. Like Ty Lue, hearing his press conference after the game today, and how their main focus was like just switch up coverages on Randall, make him really have to work for every shot, frustrate him. Like he's a very emotional player, so on the court, you just kind of wait for the ticking time bomb to go off if you frustrate him enough. And it kind of played right into their hands. And I worry about that against a smart, really good defensive Laker team with a really good defensive head coach. And that's like the biggest fear I have with this matchup. If Jalen Brunson were playing, I got to be honest, and I hope I'm not being a homer here. I think the Knicks would be coming into this Laker game on a 12-game winning streak. That's how good they were playing. That's how good he's been. And this injury has just kind of let all the air out of the balloon. So I'm curious how this matchup goes. I guess my last and final question: what are you curious about in this matchup? And are you expecting this is with the Jalen Brunson injury and with everything I just told you about the current state of the team? Is this the game the Lakers get to 500?
Well, it's the second night of a back-to-back for the Knicks. I know that Lakers fans are hoping that the Knicks tonight live it up in LA, go out, have a great night on the town.
An LA loss, yeah.
But we're looking at this matchup. I look at our buddy Julius Randle. I wonder, Jared Vanderbilt, not as big, not as strong. What can he do defensively with Randle? I think that's going to be a real key matchup. Like you said, without Brunson, Randle becomes a bit more of the focal point, certainly. But for the Lakers side, and this is probably true of every fan base, right? But we always think, okay, who is random role player X that's going to blow up for a season high game against the Lakers this time, right? So we're keeping an eye. Who is it going to be that just has a crazy shooting night and does these great things against the Lakers? So that's going to be something we're going to be watching out for. Who is it that gets hot? This would be the second game in a row where somebody has shot extremely poorly against the Clippers and then potentially had a bounce back against the Lakers. The Raptors were red hot. I don't know how the Lakers pulled that one off. We'll see what the Knicks look like there. But and then defensively, RJ Barrett, what do the Lakers do there? Without LeBron, their wing depth, which is already thin, becomes even thinner. So how do they handle defending him? That's another thing we'll be keeping an eye on in this game. But it should be a fun one. I always love getting to see Julius come back. But I'm looking forward to it. I wish Brunson was playing because he is so great. You always hate to see players out due to injury, but fingers crossed. Is there optimism that he'll be back sometime soon?
So he did get a good evaluation on, I guess, an X-ray that there's nothing broken. Like soft. It's a bone bruise is what it sounds like. And that it's just a sore foot. He heard it last Friday against Miami. And during the game, like watching the injury live, he left in the middle of the third quarter. We all held our collective breath. And when he came back in the fourth and played the rest of the game, my immediate thought was like the next morning when the adrenaline wears off and that thing swells up, we're not going to see him on Sunday against the Celtics. And that's what happened. He comes back on Thursday against the Kings, aggravates it. And I think this is now when they're starting to look at this as like, okay, we tried to get him back sooner. It was way too soon. And this is like a Tom Thibodeau coach team. So there's no like minutes restriction on a Jalen Brunson.
Right. Yeah.
So it was like, I honestly think that this is headed toward him taking the rest of the road trip off. They play against the Lakers on Sunday and then in Portland on Tuesday. Then they have 3 days off before their next game at home next Saturday against Jokic and the Nuggets. So I think best case scenario, they just give him the full week and he's back on Sunday again, that's that matinee against the Nuggets, or they give him that off and he gets an extra couple days and then it's a Monday night game against Minnesota. And then he's got 10 games in the Knicks schedule actually lightens up. It's 10, their final 11 games are over a 27-day span. So they can actually like manage some injuries and some nicked up players that probably could use a day off or two. Julius Randle being one of them. I think he's kind of running on fumes. So that might come into play on the second night of a back-to-back in LA. Trevor, you've been outstanding with your time. Just on a personal note, the Laker game happening the same night as the Oscars, is that weird that Hollywood just like kind of just like punted and we're like, we're not even going to try anymore. Schedule a Laker game the night of the Oscars. No one's going to watch anyway. Like, I feel bad because I'm a huge cinephile and this is like one of my favorite nights of the year. And I have to work. Like the Knicks are playing against the Lakers. So it's like at the end of the day, the Knicks are going to be on the iPad, but like, is it weird that there's what's supposed to be like LA shuts down for the Oscars, but also the Lakers are playing the Knicks on the same night across town?
I'll be totally honest. I'm the wrong guy to ask. I had no idea the Oscars were even on that night. The Oscars are tomorrow.
See, there you go.
See, I pay no attention to any of that stuff. So I did not realize that was the case. So I can't even tell you if that's abnormal or not, just because it's just not my thing. So unfortunately, I'm not much help there.
The night that Spike Lee won his Oscar for Black Klansman, the Knicks played, but it was in New York, and this was the scene of the season they won 17 games. So it didn't matter as much. But like midway through the ceremony, Sam Jackson came up to present an award and was like, just wanted to give an update. the Knicks won tonight, and like told Spike Lee that, just like giving you the Knicks beat the Spurs 130 to 118, and just FYI, Spike, it's looking like it's your night tonight, which is one of the 17 times that they won.
Spike had a rough day today. I mean,
he was at the Lakers. Well, I guess he's there for the Oscars, which is why he was at the. You know what? I bet you if you gave a lie detector test, where would Spike rather be tomorrow night? The Laker game against the Knicks or the Oscars?
He'd rather be at the game.
Oh, man. On Hollywood's biggest night, me and my select few will be watching some of the Hollywood awards be given out. Most people listening to this will be watching this matchup between two of the more popular teams on the planet. And Trevor, thank you so much for joining me to talk all about it and help me preview this game. Before you go, please tell everybody where they can find you and all the things you do with Lakers Nation.
Sure. Yeah. You can find most of my work over at the Lakers Nation YouTube channel. We do videos there every single day on the Lakers, breaking everything down. The Lakers Nation podcast, of course, the podcast feed over on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever it is that you listen to podcasts. Our written work is over at LakersNation.com. And then if you want to find me personally, I'm at Trevor_Lane over on Twitter, at Trevor Lane NBA on Instagram.
Trevor, thank you so much for joining me.
No problem. Thank you so much for having me. Appreciate it.